All right, here we go. We're doing something very different here at yourlocalnote.com. We're doing a vidcast, but the great thing about this, it's live. Amber Ladd is our guest for this evening, so we appreciate you checking us out. We're going to talk to Amber about her music. She's got a new album out. It's called Elecktro. We'll play some of those songs from the album. We'll talk about her music. We'll talk about her career and all that good stuff. That's right here on yourlocalnote.com. Just want to remind you, if you want to get our newsletter, just send us an email at contact@yourlocalnote.com. We're streaming 24/7. Check that out. Plus, we've got free apps. You can go to the respective stores and just type in YLN and download those apps for free, and you can take yourlocalnote.com anywhere you want to go. And then, of course, we do the podcast, or the vidcast now is what we call them, and we've got them all archived. So if you want to check out one from a couple years ago, just type in the band's name and you'll be able to find it out. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to play the song Yeah Yeah from Amber Ladd and her album Elecktro, and then we're going to come back and we'll talk to Amber about her music. This is yourlocalnote.com.
Destined to be, so no, I won't sit down anymore, and no, I won't walk away this time. I came here to take back what's mine and tell you you'll run out of time. You finally run out of time. Take back what's mine and tell you you've run out of time. You finally run out of time. I came here to take back what's mine and tell you you've run out of time. You finally run out of time. I won't sit down anymore. I know I won't walk away this time. I came here to take back what's mine and tell you you've run out of time. You finally run out of time. Sit down anymore. I know I won't walk away this time. I came here to take back what's mine and tell you you've run out of time. You finally run out of time.
All right, the song is called Yeah Yeah. That's Amber Ladd from her album Elecktro. Amber, welcome to yourlocalnote.com.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you joining us and allowing us to experiment tonight.
I know. I feel excited.
Very cool.
First.
Let's talk about this song first, and then we'll talk about your career and how you got started in music. But Yeah Yeah, what is that song about?
It's anthemy. It's really it's like a call to arms. Mm-hmm. I think that if you picked a deep one to start off with, but it really is about the fact that the world is changing and that people are starting to refuse to be accepting and complacent of things that make their lives difficult and miserable, and that people are taking back their own power. I think it's an empowering song.
Okay, so it's positive.
Power. Yeah.
Okay, very cool. All right, let's then talk about you.
Okay.
I'm sure that's not going to be difficult to do, right?
I'll figure it out.
All right. So, how did you get into music?
I actually, like, literally, when I was 11, I went to my mom and I was like, I want to enter a singing contest. And she was shocked and had no idea why. And I got a background tape. It was Bette Midler. And I learned Wind Beneath My Wings.
Okay.
And I went in a country music singing contest and sang Wind Beneath My Wings.
Right.
In a little sundress. And I got, like, second.
Oh, nice.
That was just it. I mean...
And had you been taking singing lessons or any type of music lessons?
No. I think I saw a girl, so at that time I was still like in the church and we kind of did that. And I think that I had a friend who sang and I saw her doing it and I was like, I want to do that. Like I can do that.
Okay.
But it really just kind of happened pretty instantaneously. My mom was shocked.
You decided that you wanted to sing.
Yeah.
And you listened to the tape and then you just
That's it. I learned Wind Beneath My Wings.
Nice.
I nailed it.
Okay. So that's how you got started. Then let's start with, or let's talk about how you've arrived at the music, because your music is, it's electro, right?
Yeah.
Is what we call it?
Yeah.
And it's different.
Kind of hard to peg a little bit.
So how did you come about doing this style of music?
So I did gospel and competition singing growing up. It was all vocals, it was background tracks for years. And then when I got in high school, I went in a band. Had some like rock, learned a guitar, got all emo, wrote some very depressing songs about the darkness of life.
Okay.
And I went on stage and I sang them. And so that was great for a long time. And then I was in a band and living in Toronto, kind of doing acoustic stuff on my own. And I just realized there was a point. It's not even that long ago, really like 6-7 years. And I just realized that I didn't want to buy what I made.
Right.
I was bored. Like, it wasn't that I was lazy. I didn't want to practice or do stuff. I used to say that it was because I was lazy. And then I just realized it was because I was bored.
Okay.
So I literally took 2 weeks and I listened to every album that I'd been obsessed with since I was like 13 and I first started listening to rock music.
Okay.
So I listened to like really like everything. It was just a huge spectrum.
Okay.
Everything from like Green Day to like Aerosmith to like just across the board.
All right.
And at the end of it, I decided I was going to make an album. I was going to make some music on my own with no band. And that was it. I started putting a song together. I had GarageBand at the time.
Okay.
And it developed and developed and developed into this style.
And you're basically a solo artist.
I am.
And you create everything. Every sound that we hear, you're creating.
Yeah. I do a little sampling, so obviously I take that from like a lot of old movies and old recordings and stuff like that. One of the first sample I ever used was like L. Ron Hubbard talking about people from Jupiter having like different gravity laws or some kind of like
the
bizarre thing.
Scientologist guy,
yeah. And I was just like, it was perfect, you know.
Okay.
But I did spend a lot of time dancing right
Okay.
before I started to make this. So there used to be a divide with me where it was like the music I made and then the music I would go out and listen to.
Okay.
And I don't make dance music. My stuff's like low tempo and I'm not like an EDM kind of like kind of person for the most part. But that was a huge part of me.
You enjoyed that?
Yeah. So I think what this was a marriage of those two worlds.
Okay. So now when it comes to songwriting, do your songs, are you a storyteller type person, or do you have to live or experience something that you're writing about?
I really do write from what I'm living.
Okay.
I do. Really.
Okay.
I definitely get inspired by like different pieces of a song. So I've had where like a sample is the first thing that comes into my head. I've had where like beeps or bloops are like a noise. I've had it where it's a verse, a whole verse, or like a whole lyric or a chorus. And like from that inspiration, I always grow something, but it definitely ends up being personal. I don't think, it's not what I'm going through.
Something may come along, so words may pop into your head, and then you start to try to create something around that. Or sounds may pop into your head, and then you create
different
something.
all the time. Yeah.
Okay, so you never know when inspiration's going to strike.
It's true.
Are you writing stuff down constantly?
Yes. I have books and pens and paper with me everywhere I go. I don't even leave my house without having that stuff with me. Yeah, absolutely.
Anybody else musical in your family?
My whole mom's side of the family is actually very musical, and I didn't know this. So I'm actually mixed race. So my father is black, my mom's white, and I used to sing gospel when I was a kid. So I don't know why, but I guess I just thought in my mind.
Right.
But it was like that side. But my aunt has an angelic voice. All my mom, she's got a few sisters. They all have really nice voices. But it turns out my grandfather was the #1 tenor in Pennsylvania.
Oh, nice.
When he was like growing up, like a teenager.
Right.
He was a minister in the Alliance Church, and he had this just insane, perfect operatic voice.
So there's a lot of music in your family.
Yeah, that's the side of the.
So do they like your music? Or are they looking at it and just go, well, Amber's doing her thing?
They're so totally supportive of me. I think that they know that there's something to me, and it's not just about music, like kind of the person I am, that they are big time cheerleaders for. My grandmother and a bunch of my aunts came to my album opening for my first album in Boston, and I think some of my relatives get my music.
Okay.
If they like one of my uncles, he likes Tricky and like all these other trip hop bands and stuff, and I think he like digs it. Some of them might not totally get it, but the voice is always there,
Okay.
But they really believe in me as a human being, and I think that they've never told me anything except go for it, because I think they know I can do it.
Well, I think that's important. You got to do. If you as a living for a job, career, you got to do what you love.
That's like in my music. Like I believe so passionately that the things that make you tick and the things that you're really passionate about that just like emanate from you, that's your being telling you what you should do to have a happy life and like what you should be involved in. And I think that we have that beaten out of us.
Okay.
And we begin to come up with lists of reasons why it's impossible, but.
All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to play the second song from your album, Elecktro, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about that. All right, the song is called No Way Out. We're hanging with Amber Ladd. The album is Elecktro, and this is yourlocalnote.com, and we are live tonight, so thank you for joining us.
Hi, everybody.
Since the foundation cracked, I've got my life back. I've got my stride back. Hear that? No one has control of me. No one has control of me. 'Cause I am the whole of me. And I, knowing what I have inside, knowing that right would be right, decided I'm not gonna hide this. All that I have learned to be, all that I have learned to be, doesn't mean I still don't see this.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are experiencing technical. Ladies and gentlemen, we are experiencing difficulties. Ladies and gentlemen, we are experiencing technical. Please stand by. We are experiencing difficulties. Ladies and gentlemen, we are experiencing technical. Ladies and gentlemen, we are experiencing difficulties. Ladies and gentlemen, we are experiencing technical. Please stand by. We are experiencing difficulties.
Doesn't mean I still don't see. You may now smoke. You may now smoke. You may smoke. You may now smoke. No one has control of me. No one has control of me. 'Cause I am the whole of me. 'Cause I am the whole of me. And you may now smoke. You may now smoke. You may now smoke. You may now smoke. No one has control of me. No one has control of me. 'Cause I am the whole of me.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are experiencing Ladies and gentlemen, we are experiencing difficulties. Ladies and gentlemen, we are experiencing technical tweaks. We are experiencing difficulties. Ladies and gentlemen, we are experiencing technical. Ladies and gentlemen, we are experiencing difficulties. Ladies and gentlemen, we are experiencing technical tweaks. We are experiencing difficulties. Ladies and gentlemen, we are experiencing technical. Ladies and gentlemen, we are.
All right, that is called No Way Out. It's Amber Ladd from her album Elecktro. And we are live tonight on yourlocalnote.com. You've got some fans who are watching, so why don't you say hi to them?
I have the most important fan ever, Billy Hicks,
Nice.
listening and watching.
Nice.
I love you, Billy.
Very cool. All right, let's talk about No Way Out. What is this about?
So it's about a time where, well, I had a song a long time ago called No Way Out. So this one's technically called Still No Way Out, and it's sort of a little
So
bit
this
of a
is part
continuation.
two?
It is, and there's like
Okay.
a little part of the chorus that came from another previous song, but the rest of it's all different. And I think it talks about basically parts of your life. I think that we really are in control of how we want our lives to be, but it talks about playing with the idea that there's still parts that are just destined,
Okay.
and that those parts are going to keep popping up.
Do you do this often where you'll take an old song and maybe rework it a little bit? Or
I actually do it. I did it quite a bit. I've done it a lot. And now
Okay.
on my next album, which I guess we'll talk about a bit later, I'm totally doing that.
Okay.
But
so a lot of stuff that you've written, you're now revisiting and saying,
yeah.
okay.
Well, when I first started to write, I wrote so much I didn't use, and I was still so new at what I was doing.
Right.
So a lot of stuff didn't like get developed to a certain level.
Uh-huh.
So sometimes, if in my life they would have to still be relevant in my present.
Sure.
But if they become that, then it just like, yeah, definitely. I want to revisit them.
You'll listen to it and say, you know what, I can do something different with this.
I think I've always done that. Even when I've done like, when I wrote like just acoustic or just a little alternative, sometimes I would write a chorus and then a song would die. And then like 2 years later, I'd find that chorus, and then all of a sudden the song would be born. And that's kind of what it really is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So nothing ever dies with you.
No.
How's that?
There you go. I'm connected to it, so it's still in there somewhere.
Do you have, as you write, I mean, you're a solo artist, do you have someone that you sometimes go to and say, hey, listen, what do you think of this? Or I'm stuck with this. What do you think? Or, I guess a little bit of help, a lifeline, if you will.
I have a lot of lifelines for my life. But surprisingly, hopefully not to my detriment, I don't have too many people. Maybe now, maybe as of recently I do.
Okay.
But traditionally, by the time people have been hearing my stuff, it's at a very advanced stage.
Okay.
So I really don't consider myself a control freak, and I try and be open. But by the same token, I don't end up, it is really my own little world until it kind of comes out.
Now, with this album, Elecktro, this is not your first album.
No.
This is number
This
2.
is my third
album.
It is. Technically my fourth. I had one that I didn't release.
Okay.
That I made all the way to the end, and then I didn't release it.
Do you record your own stuff and produce your own
Everything.
stuff?
Yeah.
And you
100%.
taught yourself this?
Yes. Gradually, over like many missteps. And it's funny because my first one, Trip, which I guess like almost 4 years ago now, it isn't bad. Like when I hear it, I now hear like mixing things that I know that I would change, but it's not bad because it was all relying on my ear, and like for that, it's really not that
So
bad.
now you're technically more advanced.
Yes.
So it's not all on your ear. It's
a little, I do know more what I'm doing from a technological standpoint. The biggest difference is time, because it doesn't take me, I'm not figuring every single step out, and I know I've streamlined the process a lot. So the biggest difference is that I go into it now and the recording is like just the facilitation of what's in my head.
Right.
Whereas with trip, it was a real big struggle to get what was in my head and figure out with each thing. How was I going to do this, and how was I going to record this and make this noise? And
would you ever consider working with someone else, a producer and stuff?
Yeah, I think it's in my future for sure.
Okay.
Maybe I might just be like enjoying this period where I can still, and there's something to be said that's like a selling point of what I'm doing right now.
Okay.
To say like this is something I did all on my own, and like that might be something that sticks out with people.
Sure.
But absolutely, I'm completely open.
Okay.
It's just that also what I'm doing, the kind of producer I'm going to want to work with, and the kind of ear that I need, I haven't totally encountered yet, because there's just. I did work with an engineer and sort of with a bit of production for my last album, before Elecktro. And the person I worked with, he'd only ever worked on alternative things. And like, he did a good job because I still produced it and he just like mixed it. But even in then, it's just like, there's certain concepts that are a little foreign if you're not working on electronic music.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Are there things that you've done in the past, or are things that maybe on this past album that you looked at and you're like, there are some things that I didn't put in this album, but I want to try for my next album?
My whole setup has totally evolved since my last album.
Does it always evolve? I mean, are you adding and taking away things?
But this one is a big jump. So so that's why I'm calling the project Reinvention, because it's that.
Oh, okay. Well, why don't we just?
Yeah, we'll wait on that.
No. But what I want to talk about, you were jumping the gun there. Why don't we go through some of the stuff that you work on? I mean, some of your equipment, because we're talking about solo. You're a solo artist,
right?
But you're a one-person band.
Yeah.
And so, what do you? If you're going to be live,
right?
What do you got in front of you?
So now, what I have in front of me is the RC50, which is like this super sweet roll-in looper that has like 6 pedals and 3 like looper channels. I have samples loaded onto it, and I do a lot of live recording onto it. I have a basically full-size MIDI keyboard. So MIDI means it goes through my computer. It can sound like anything. Okay. In the whole wide world.
All right.
I have a little computer and a pad that lets me trip whatever clips on my computer like an instrument to the beat.
Sure.
I have my mic, and I sing into it to record vocals over itself. I play with a guitar, so once in a while I'll pick up the guitar, and I've got a pedal, so I can do cool guitar sounds. I have a mini Chaos pad, which does effects, and then it also does like where you can record into it and mess with what you've just put into it. Like there's a full version of it that's just... So I'm using that. I guess right now that's basically what I'm down to.
Do you, after doing a show and working with all that, do you have to get carried off the stage? It sounds exhausting to me.
People come up to me all the time. I just played a show on Saturday, and they're like, how do you do all those things? But it's funny. It was such a gradual progression. Okay. And I added one thing in the next. And I used to do things that were so much more complicated because it's all I could do. So for example, the computer, how I said I have a pad where I trip the clips. I used to sit live on stage and use the trackball mouse and click every time I changed a sample. And sometimes that's like halfway through a phrase, like back and forth, back and forth. So for me now to hit a button that's lit up, seems like I'm not even doing anything. So, it's gradual.
And now you sort of teased us, but you're going to go through a little bit of a reinvention now with what you do. But every day is for you in the music world, I guess, is a learning experience.
That's so true.
I mean, you're learning something new every day, so that's exciting.
It is exciting.
But it can be exhausting sometimes.
I'm so motivated by it. I think that what I'm doing, this like kind of compilation of music that I'm making, I feel the imminence of it. I feel like it's not fully developed. I can feel where it's headed. I've always been able to feel that. And my motivation to like let it be born is so heavy that I'm just like a sponge. Like I want to learn everything. And I feel like since it's constantly been evolving, every time I get a new piece or every time I get a new skill or I figure out something, it's like a catapult. And I don't think anyone's quite doing it the same way, because it's like when you're self-taught, you come about things in your own way.
Right.
So, I don't know. It's so neat. It makes me excited.
Well, that's good. I mean, we actually have run across a band that I would say we could classify is in the same chapter of the book that you are. And there's just two guys, and they do
Revolution. I Love You.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. I just saw the singer from that. I watched your very
Rob,
cool interview with Rob.
Yes,
I watched the whole thing.
Yeah.
I love those guys. They were one of the first bands I saw when I came to Philly.
Really?
And I would never forget it. As soon as I saw them, I'm like.
Like
Absolutely. And it's the same thing, tracks and guitar and all of the, so somebody like me isn't going to see a band like that and forget that, because that's
very cool.
Yeah, very cool.
Let's tell everyone how you got here, because you were not born here in Philadelphia.
I wasn't.
Although you've had relatives in Pennsylvania.
Yes, and my grandparents grew up in Pennsylvania.
They grew up. Did they grow up in the Philly area? Or outside of Philly?
It's terrible that I don't know that.
Okay, that's all right. Not a
definitely
problem.
Pennsylvania.
Okay, somewhere in Pennsylvania.
My great-grandparents had a place in Mahaffey, like a cottage there, so maybe it was someplace kind of close out there. Like, I don't know for sure.
Okay, but you're originally from Canada.
I am.
All right, let's go through the voyage from Canada to here in Philadelphia
my goodness.
for Amber.
I'll give you the short version of the voyage.
Okay.
I was born in Ontario, and then kind of in my early teen years, I went to the big city, Toronto, and I stayed in that area for a long time. And I love Toronto; it's a great city.
That's what I hear. It's a great place to go. It's a big city.
I love it.
Okay.
It's still, I've been to so many cities, and it's still so special and so amazing. And it's huge.
Well, probably one of the reasons is because you spent some time there and did a lot of growing up there.
But I think that if you went to Toronto, it's a pretty awesome, it is huge, but it's still so nice and vibrant.
Is it a walking city? Can you walk easily around the city?
In fact, it's like winter friendly, so there's underground tunnels. In the winter, you can walk between all the huge buildings downtown and never go outside.
That's a plus.
It's a huge plus. That's the one thing I don't like about Toronto is the winter.
Okay. So after Toronto, what was your next stop?
So what happened was I started making this music.
Okay.
And I found that I was running into a little bit of a creative block because people didn't understand what I was going for, except for Billy. People didn't understand what I was doing, and it was not anybody's fault. It was just they were used to me in a certain way. So I moved to Montreal to do a restart.
Okay.
And I knew that it was like an electronic place. But I started visiting Boston around that time.
Isn't that a great city?
It's a very cool city. I have a lot of friends there, so if any of you cutie pies from Boston are watching, I love you all.
Okay.
And I started to get a name there. And I was coming and visiting all the time and doing shows there all the time. And it was just like, maybe I should just... I think, too, it's interesting, but the Canadian music scene is amazing. The industry is quite different.
Yes.
And I felt like I would have a shot here. And I had aunts that lived close to Boston.
Well, the thing is about the Canadian music scene that we'll let some of our viewers who aren't from Canada know. Radio stations have to play a certain amount of artists from Canada.
Wow.
They can't play just all the hits.
Right.
And if they all are from America or from Europe or wherever, there has to be a certain amount of Canadian artists that get played. So always found that interesting. Talked to some people, especially the radio stations that were on the border of America. They felt frustrated because sometimes they felt like they were missing out. They weren't able to compete with the stations.
And the artists that are getting signed, I haven't been there a few years, but it seemed to me like the artists that were getting signed and getting deals there were just in pop genres, and a lot of people end up coming to the United States to get
yeah, well, yes.
And my family was here, so it wasn't such a leap out of nowhere to
So
me.
your family moved down here while you were moving around
so
building
actually
your career.
I'll give you a little more of the long version. I didn't go straight to Boston. I ended up on a detour in Denver. Everywhere I've lived in the States, I've worked as a live-in nanny.
Oh, okay.
And there was a friend, and I ended up taking care of their little one for a while. And then I came to Jersey. I've lived in Jersey 3 times since I've been in the States.
Okay.
Because I
so
met...
you're a masochist? No, I'm kidding. I'm joking.
Jersey loves me.
I'm joking.
It wants me.
Yes.
What can I say? I actually met someone from High Times Magazine, and he had a daughter, and I came here to live with him and take care of his daughter. And that was the first Jersey place I lived.
That's wild.
And I went back to Boston. I came back to Jersey. Then I went back to Boston for a bit. Now here I am.
My wife
in Jersey.
Grew up in Iowa, moved to Boston, and was a nanny.
Wow.
So there's a connection there somewhere.
There you go. No,
You're feeling
definitely.
It, right?
Oh, yeah. It's a big part of my life, too.
Being a nanny?
Yes.
It's interesting. My wife actually, though, was a nanny for a year, was done with that, went to radio school and got into radio.
And then the rest is history.
Yeah, and we met at a radio station a number of years later. So that's how
nice.
that works. Yeah.
I really... part of I really have a huge connection with little kids, and
Cool.
it's a huge part of my life too.
So you moving around, but you've settled in Jersey now, outside of
Yeah.
Philadelphia, and you're making your music here.
It's cool to have all like the Delaware scene and the Philly scene and
And you
you're
can
a
hop
hop
up to
skip
New
to New
York.
York. I mean, what's
And
better
you can
than
even go
that?
to Boston, and it's not that far.
It's true. I do feel like in the heart, as far as I can still go and do shows.
There's
and like
always
see
Baltimore too that you have to try.
There you go.
It's not that far.
I gotta get there.
Yes. No, it's a really, from a music standpoint, strategically, it is a really good.
It
place
makes a
to
lot
be.
of sense.
So, how many albums have you written here?
The only album that I released while still living in Canada was Trip.
Okay.
So I've made 3 albums since being here, and
All
2
here.
that I released.
Okay. Okay. So the Elecktro and
It. Yeah. And Repeats and Replays is probably. I feel like sometimes music takes a little bit to like get into people's, especially when they love something and they're really into something. I think still It is probably the most well-known thing I've done because of Repeats and Replays, which is people just dig a lot,
Okay.
you know.
Very cool.
But Electro's making waves now a little bit too. It's been out for a bit, so it's getting in.
It sounds good. We like what we hear. All right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to play song number 3, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk to you about where people can find your music, and we'll talk a little bit more about your music. That sound
Sweet.
good?
That sounds awesome.
And then we'll also find out where people can see you
Yay.
perform live. That's all coming up here on yourlocalnote.com. But the song is called Still, and it's from the album Elecktro, and we're hanging with Amber Ladd right here on yourlocalnote.com.
I'm relieved of the waste, and if it is real, then I honestly hate you. Stop. And I hope that one day when you finally see you, try to explain it, and no one believes you still.
Okay, that's Amber Ladd. The song is called Still, and we're talking about her album Elecktro right here on yourlocalnote.com. All right, Amber, let's talk about Still. Tell us what it's about.
Oh my goodness gracious. It's like a straight ahead broken heart anthem. Mm-hmm. And
so you were feeling a little hurt?
Yeah. And I'm funny about that because I don't always totally write about that. And maybe that's because I've got myself to this place, it sounds funny, but like genuinely where I just don't take a lot personally, and I don't like, it's not like I'm never sad, but I'm a really positive person.
Yeah, we could pick up on that.
But that is like one of the most raw songs that I've ever put on an album.
So that's kind of interesting you say that, because we talked to many songwriters here, and some songwriters do their best work when they're hurt or not feeling, they're depressed, they're not feeling up to the speed or something like that. But it doesn't sound like that fits you. You like...
Yeah, not totally. I don't know. I think that I do my best writing when I'm connected.
Okay.
And for me, like, I do find myself like longing for connection or like being open in my heart if I'm really sad, but I'm so, I don't know, I'm so present when I'm happy and joyful, and like it ends up coming, and my stuff's not even like da, 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 da.
Right.
It's like more about a lot of times like change in the world, and like really like I get really passionate like about the new, I don't know. You're going to get me into like a huge long track. I just think that there is a real big ripple of connectedness happening in the world. Mm-hmm. So I want to sing about being one, and I want to sing about that kind of stuff.
Well, I think we're going through
part of it.
Yeah, we're going through a transition, I think, right now in technology, and we've talked about this.
Yes.
Technology is contributing to that.
It's true.
It makes sense.
It is all connected. It's funny because I feel like the things that are the truest in the whole wide world are true in like the littlest way, person to person, and they're true in the biggest way, everybody, the whole world.
Yeah.
And so
there's a lot of
leaps.
Commonality with everybody.
Yeah.
So that's good.
True truth is macro and micro.
Okay.
But the other way around, though, hand-wise.
All right. Let's talk about where people can find your music.
So you can find it on amberlad.com. Mm-hmm. You can buy it on Bandcamp and CD Baby.
Okay.
And you can listen to it and dig it on Reverb Nation.
Of course.
Facebook.com/TheAmberLad.
And do you have a Twitter handle?
I do. It's AmberLad. I got in early on that game.
Okay, so it's at AmberLab?
Yep.
Okay, we got that?
Yep.
All right, very good. Anything else?
I often post more emotional things on Twitter. So if you're really like one of those people who are into the raw experience of a band, follow me on Twitter.
All right.
Because on Facebook, I will post, but like Twitter, you're going to know about me.
Because it's in your head.
It's instant.
And you need to do that.
And I like the fact that you are put down to 140 characters. It's like, can you say this big feeling that you have in one sentence or two sentences? I like that challenge.
Do you ever regret some of the things you've put down?
Of course. Absolutely. I'm a human being, and like...
But you're still going to just put it down.
Oh, yeah.
You put it out there.
Oh, definitely.
I see.
Because I think that if you're coming from a place that's genuine and you're coming from a good place and a place full of love, you're not going to worry. Like, yeah, I'll say stuff that like later I don't feel the same way, but I'm never going to be like, this person is an idiot or something. Like, that's not my style. So like, I'm not worried in a way of like I've hurt someone or I've caused damage.
No, my concern is, and I just really work with the site's Twitter account that I'll do that. But my concern is when I put some things down or if I write something, I know people who know me will know what I mean. Yeah. Because I use a lot of sarcasm. Yeah. And sarcasm doesn't come across on Twitter or
not
even
always.
On Facebook, not even on emails.
Texts are bad for that.
Yes. So I really resist doing that because I've seen people run into problems. Right. So I try to stay away from that because I know I'll laugh. And a few people who know me will laugh. Right. And then a whole bunch of people will be like, you are the biggest jerk.
See, I feel like I'm not like combative on Twitter or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And then I just feel like if I'm pretty open about just being me and then other people sorting it out. And if people like get the wrong impression, then
if
they know me, well, I think if they hang around, the truth lasts the longest.
Okay, very good. Then we've got some shows that you got coming up. Let's talk about your shows.
Freaking May 3rd, World Cafe Live at the Queen. Gonna break the roof down.
And who are you playing with there?
Okay. Ginger Coyle, JB Cole, Nick Bayard, I think it is.
Okay.
Is that right? It's not. It's like Ballard of the Y is how I memorized it. And oh gosh, there's a band, something about Clarity. Oh,
Okay.
goodness.
That's okay. We'll get it up on the site.
They're all awesome. It's up on the site.
Yes. Okay.
I had it memorized, but I'm really excited to see a lot of them.
So click the link below.
Yeah, I do.
And people will see
Oh my
the
gosh.
whole lineup. All
And
right. I
I
was getting coached by Mike, who's in the background here.
yes, that's the Gable Music Singer-Songwriter Showcase.
Oh, cool.
I'm super excited to have been invited to be a part of it. It's a big deal to me.
Do you pay attention to other songwriters and try to
Yeah.
learn from them? Or do you
Yes.
just see what they're doing just out of curiosity?
I go to the front at every show that I'm at and take in every song by every band that plays. If you're at a show with me, like unless I'm not feeling well or something, you're going to see me at the frickin' front right there, like soaking in everything that everyone's doing all the time.
So you're basically a student
Absolutely. And we all
Constantly?
should be. Yeah.
and asking questions. Will you approach a band or a singer?
If I
afterwards?
have a question, and I'm always looking at equipment, and I'm always like trying to get a vibe, and then there's a lot of things you don't say and you don't share, and you just like make your own conclusions.
Okay.
But it's interesting to like see what attracts you, what engages you, what distracts you, what you can. It's just I really find like it's so valuable. That's like a huge part.
Have you? I don't want to use the word stolen, but have you borrowed some stage, I guess, moves or the way people approach their shows, how they are handling themselves on stage? Have you ever patterned yourself after someone and said, I like what they do, I'm going to try to incorporate it into what I do on stage?
No, except for that when an artist is so good that you're captivated. Like I remember specifically still being in Toronto and going to this show, and there was like this guy, and he was signed as a songwriter for EMI, not even as an artist. And he played with his guitar and he sang, and I remember just being like, I suck. Like not even in a but in a way of like, if you want to be that level, that's what you have to be doing on stage. And like, so I wouldn't be doing what he's doing because I'm not playing acoustic music.
No,
but I do pay attention to magic, and I try to make my own magic. And that's never specific about like what's being played or what's being said or what's being sung or how the person's moving. It's always about how they're like some kind of like expression. I really pay attention to that.
Okay.
But I don't think I've ever done anything because I've seen it specifically, except for like I saw the RC50 6 years ago and I was like, I want that. And I've seen like some bands locally here and they have crazy synth things and they're making these wacky noises and I'm like, I would like to have that piece of equipment. But yeah, that's about as far as it goes.
Okay. More shows. We've got another show coming up.
I want to talk about Elephants for Autism.
Good.
At the end of this month and coming up, and it is the 16th to the 18th in Atlantic City, Le Grand Fromage, and I think that there's other stages surrounding, so this is another situation where you need to go. Look it up. Elephants for Autism is put on by a sweetheart named Jerry Ryan. It's a great cause. It has come to my attention that this is very personal for a lot of the people that are involved in.
Okay.
So there's so many great acts on the bill. All my friends are going to be there.
Again, the
Worth
date.
the trip.
The date.
May 16th to the 18th.
Okay. And you're going to be there what day?
I'll be there on the 18th.
On the
Sunday.
18th. Okay.
That's
and all the information, we'll have that up on the site too.
Yes.
Okay. I'm getting a big thumbs up from Mike. So
Mike's on it.
Yes, he's on it. Absolutely. All right. So that's an important show. You want to? Anything else? Any other shows you got coming up, or are you just going to let us know when they're coming?
Yeah, if you follow me, you'll see like what I'm doing.
Well, we'll be following you.
Those
Absolutely.
are the big ones that come up to mind immediately.
Very important. The Elephant for Autism sounds like a great.
It is, and there's
cause.
also CDs being released that are like compilations of the artists.
Okay.
Just get your hands on some.
Excellent. Very good. All right, then. Let's talk about your last song. Real quickly, I want to ask you, you did mention that you have another project coming up.
I do.
When do you anticipate getting that out?
Soon.
Okay, soon meaning end of summer, soon fall, soon middle of summer?
I don't anticipate it being longer than fall, but you
Okay.
never know.
Okay,
But
so
I don't. I think it could be
next
coming together quick.
3 to 5 months?
Definitely keep your eye out. I do have a title for it. It's called Reinvention, and it is celebrating my musical reinvention.
Do you have all your songs written for that?
I have so many that I'm choosing from that I think I do. It could switch out
So you're paring down. It's not that you have to come up
I'm
with songs.
always paring down.
You're always writing and then
paring down. And on this one, I'm doing these. So I have another like niche that some people know about because I've released a few, which is where I do like a remix. But this isn't like how a DJ does a remix. I'll take a song and cut little pieces of it. Like if you are out there and you listen to electronic, like a Wax Taylor kind of a thing, and I'll make an entirely new song. And in with the new material, I'm going to take some of the best loved pieces and do these reinventions. So that will be something interesting, and I think people are gonna like get an idea of how I do what I do when they hear those.
Okay. Now, when you are performing live and you get feedback from your fans, I mean, do you ever get sometimes surprised at what songs they react to and what songs they don't react to, or
Yes.
you just put it out there and whatever they like, they like?
I think that I feel really like everybody likes different things, which is cool. Mm-hmm. And I feel like people have been really good. If you're listening and you've come see me, thank you for being so cool with the fact that I'm always doing new stuff all the time. And
All right.
I will throw in an old thing here or there. I'm writing so much, so I'm always, and people don't give me a hard time, but I appreciate that.
So do you take their reaction and say, you know what, I got a good reaction to this. This is going to have to go on my next album?
Only in the fact that if it's something that connects, like if I'm on stage and when I'm doing it, I'm on another planet, I'm probably going to keep it in. I go with what makes like ease and sense. But I definitely, for my live shows, if everybody loves one song, I'm going to try and do that song. Like I love people and I want to
Right.
But as far as what I pick for the albums, it ends up becoming clear. It ends up definitely being like, I can't listen to it without getting like goosebumps and without getting like that connected way. I don't know. It makes me amped up. That's what goes on.
Do you ever ask anybody else's opinion on what song should be on the album or not?
You're making me sound like a terrible person.
No, I don't mean it that way.
I don't. I do a little bit like with my last album. I know you don't. I'm just messing with you. On my last album, there is one song that I wasn't sure about, and I thought this is kind of cool, but it was so like it was a little old, and I thought it was too simple. It was right, and it has this really strange like guitar. It was like out there, and I have a friend who was like, yeah. You need to put that on the album. I did.
Okay.
So it wasn't like I need to be totally sold on it, but I did ask, like, do you think that it's good, should be on there? I get, like, I really make these projects, like, beings and, like, babies, and, like, sometimes I feel like they just have a way that they want to be. I know how that sounds, but I really do think that.
No,
so sometimes
it's your creation.
Yeah.
So, yes,
Yeah.
What you're saying is not unusual. We hear that from other songwriters.
But so sometimes it comes together.
Okay.
But I think that if something seems like it's difficult all the time, I let it go. And if something seems like it's coming together, I hold on to it. Not once you get to a certain point, obviously. Okay. But that's how I kind of pick
All right.
things.
Very cool. All right. We're going to wrap things up here. It's been great hanging with you.
No, it was really fun.
I'm glad you enjoyed yourself.
Thank you.
This was an easy interview. All I had to do was ask a question and then say, okay, it's going to be another 5 minutes. No, I'm kidding.
Talking is not something that
Not a
I have to
problem
struggle
for you.
with.
Okay.
It's one of
that's
those
cool.
things on the list of flowing things that come easy.
All right, let's talk about then this song. This is the last song we're going to play on the Vidcast.
Cool. I wrote. It says like that song. This song has 2 parts, and I literally wrote one part before moving to Philly and one part after.
Okay.
And I wrote it on a napkin in a bar, listening like in between bands when I was like in a set. It's very just inspired, and it's mostly all vocals. There's only a tiny little bit where a beat comes in, and it was the first thing I would say that was written mostly for the looper, which I'm now using super heavily. So
Okay.
it might be kind of a little bit of an indicator of what's to come.
Nice. Very good. All right, Amber, again, thank you so much for hanging with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, this is yourlocalnote.com. Just want to remind you, we'll have another vidcast coming up next week. We do a new one every single week, so on Mondays, check it out. Again, we have a newsletter. Send us an email at contact@yourlocalnote.com. Check out our streaming 24/7, and of course, Mike and I do a weekly update. I know he doesn't like me to say that, but it's a weekly update. It's the YLN video update. Mike and I talk about what's going on in the Philly music scene. So check that out also on yourlocalnote.com. Wrapping everything up here tonight with Amber Ladd from her album Elecktro. This song is called The Song on yourlocalnote.com.
wouldn't wait and see if you'd ever say that to me. As if you'd ever say that to me. If you'd ever called on. As if you'd ever say wait and see if you'd ever say that to me. As I see, there is a part of me nobody else can see. As I see something inside of me nobody else can see. When around this part, I had found a home, and I knew I wasn't ever gonna be alone. And I thought that I'd maybe never see if you'd ever say that to me. As I see, there is a part of me nobody else can see. And I see something inside of me nobody else can see. And I see there is a part of me nobody else can see. And I see something inside of me nobody else can see. And I see there is a part of me nobody else can see. And I see something inside of me nobody else can see.